Konami finally released a ban list, guys. So, I guess the good news is more content. The bad news is more effort for me. I don't know why Lancey is even relevant. I always have it in my side deck tier list. It shouldn't be here. It's a bad card. I don't know. Don't play Lancia. But yeah, somewhere in CT it hits some decks, but unfortunately, you're not winning the game after unless you have full combo in your hand after Lancia. You're not winning. So that's why I don't like it. A tier for Dark Reader No More, I think is a good card. It really hits Flunder quite well. It's not amazing against Branded, however, I'd say against most of the other top decks it will put in work. DD Crow is an A tier hand trap. I love A tier hand trap, A tier side deck card. I love this card so much. I actually think it should be in a main deck a lot of the times, just because it hits both combo and slow decks. That's one of the things I really like about it. So it's like less room to side out, which is nice. Lightning Storm is also quite good this format. Yeah, just good against monsters, good against back row. Yeah, that versatility is nice. So B is going to be a specialty, I would say. A lot of the cards on B are going to be cards that, if you can play it, they're amazing. However, most decks can't play it. Denko really falls into that. If you're playing like Pendulums or something, or a deck that just doesn't need the normal summon, Denko is so good. You just shut off back row. Like, what the heck? But unfortunately, most decks just can't get away with throwing away their normal summon like that. Panktops is good, but it's at 1. So I'm actually going to put it at the bottom of B tier. Not because it's bad, but because it's at 1. I think it's hard to build a side deck strategy around that. It's just a generically good side deck card. It's at 1 and it's not super high impact like Red Root Reboot, for example. That's my opinion on Panktops, unfortunately. Cyclone is another, I would say, high A tier hand trap side deck card this format. In fact, I'm actually going to put it in S tier. Yeah, I think you should always have Cyclones in your side or your main. It's just right now we have a lot of spells and traps that you don't want them in the grave because they float or have an effect or something. Cyclone is nice for dealing with that. Scythe is S tier. Yeah, it's Scythe. If you can play Scythe. It shouldn't even be in your side deck. It should be in your main deck, to be honest. Anti-Spell is very, very good this format. I'm going to put it S tier just because Branded is so good. Branded is so good that you just need a card like this in your side deck because this is the only way you're stopping them. If they resolve their Branded Fusion or whatever, they win. It's so hard to deal with. A Pointer, in my opinion, has gone down. I just don't think it's that good to snipe one card. Like, sorry, no, it is good to snipe one card, but I think it's a bit too slow. The other disadvantage of a Pointer compared to a lot of cards is that you have, again, decks like Branded that have like a Luba plus the Branded Fusion plus like instant fusion or whatever. Like, they have several ways to get to their starter, and so that's the problem with a Point of Red Lotus in my opinion. It's like it's not doing as much as it did before. Alpha King of Beasts is a good card, however he always suffers from the disadvantage that he's pretty much a brick. Like, you almost don't want to put 3 in your deck because your opponent needs to already control monsters. However, one of the things I do like is that this card is amazing in the Sword Soul matchup. It completely outs their board because you special summon it, leave just 1 monster on the board, you don't go into more, go into battle phase, beat over Chick Zhao, I think is the name, 2800, then main phase 2, activate his effect, bounce, they have to chain Baron. Now you've outed 3 cards because you've also outed Blackout because Chick Zhao's no longer on the field with 1 card. So this card is amazing against Sword Soul. However, other than that, I wouldn't really play it. Ally of Justice, blah blah blah, D tier, don't play it because Drytron's not relevant and there's better cards anyway. Gamma Seal is low C tier. I think Kaijuing 1 monster is just not amazing this format, unfortunately. It will have an okay effect against Despia, but it's just not even worth it because you've traded 1 card for them. But the Brandon Red can still resolve. They can still use Brandon Red, for example, to make Guardian Chimera, so you haven't really done anything. And also Mirror Jade is still going to trigger, and then there's just not that many decks where it's relevant against. Ice Dragon's Prison is better this format if you can play it. If you're a trap deck or something, you can play Ice Dragon's Prison. I do like it. This format definitely has a lot of application against a lot of decks. Phantasme, unfortunately, is going to be C tier. There's just not, even though there's decks that link summon, there's a lot of decks that don't link summon. There's like, you get, so it's like you've got your Flunders, you've got your Branded, you've got your Swords, or Sword Soul maybe sometimes link summon, it depends. They sometimes do link summon actually. But there's just not enough decks in the format, and then it's not high impact enough for me to be worth in your side deck. So yeah, that's why it's there. White Howling's not that good in my opinion, so you shouldn't be playing it. Blizzard, I'm sorry, Kali Effect, I don't agree with you. I think this card is bad as well, so don't play it. Contact C, unfortunately, is not amazing because if Branded plays Verte, or if they play, is it Brigand the Glory Dragon? If they play either of those cards, this does nothing against Branded, so I wouldn't play it. And then against like every other deck pretty much, they can just probably link it away anyway, so it's just not relevant. So yeah, this card, if it needs a retrain basically that stops more summoning methods, but unfortunately I think Contact C is bad, don't play it. Warning Point, I thought this card was going to put in work, but I just don't think it's worth it for your side deck. yeah, we're just not seeing people play it. It's unfortunately, yeah, don't play Warning Point. It's bad. Get Out is similar. It's just not that good. Necro Valley is A tier. Well, actually, I'll put it in high B tier. It's another high one if you can play it. If you can play Necro Valley, guys, look, I'm telling you now, if you play Pendulums, get on your set rotation Necro Valleys, all these things, they're so good. But yeah, Necro Valley is such a good field spell if you can play it. However, not a lot of decks can play it, but everything is messing up with the graveyard right now. Shared Ride, definitely an A tier side deck card. I love this card so much because it's so versatile, and it's especially good if your deck's a bit slower, because then you can activate Shared Ride and your opponent has to be scared because you're going to be drawing cards, which is nice. Cross Out Designate, if you need it, play it. You probably don't need it though, but yeah, if you need it, play it. This format, not many people are playing hand traps, but yeah. Rivalry of Warlords is definitely going to be better than it was last format. Yeah, we're moving into, even though there are mono-type decks, because of things like the Brave Engine, and again because of like Therions and stuff as well, we're going to be seeing more kind of monster mash decks with like lots of different types and stuff, and so Rivalry goes and all of those kind of floodgates are going to be about the same. Definitely worth playing. Soul Drain or Mind Drain or whatever, I don't think this is that good. I think this is the one that stops Banished and thingy. And while this is technically good against Despia, my problem with this card is twofold. When you activate this card to start off with, you're already in a bad position because Guardian Chimera on the field can activate, so you're not stopping much against like the Brandon matchup, for example. And even against a deck like Flunder, again, it's a similar thing to Lancia where you're only slowing them down temporarily. You need to basically be able to win the game after activating this already. In my opinion, there are better cards. I'd rather just have Skill Drain and just negate things on the field than try and negate some random searches in the Banish pile anyway. So that's my problem with this card. It's just not as good as it could be. Skill Drain, on the other hand, is B tier. Yeah, if you can play Skill Drain, it's pretty good, but you probably can't play it. Token Collector, I'm actually going to leave it in A tier just because Sword Soul is relevant again, and Brave Engine didn't get hit, so because of those two, I think it is worth playing Token Collector. Summon Limit, I don't think it's as good as before, because unfortunately Brave Engine can out it quite easily, and even though that's like not going to be as prevalent, I still just don't think Summon Limit's as good as it was before. On the other hand, Different Dimension Ground is quite good this format if you can play it. What's nice about this card actually is that you activate DDG, but it only really hurts them on their turn, and then it comes back to your turn and you can play again. So it's a great card going first, especially because it's a chainable and you know your opponent's gonna, like, when they're going second, they're gonna put in all the EVs and stuff. So it's like they activate like Lightning Storm, whatever, you're like, whatever, flip DDG, you're not playing anyway. So I really do like that card. In Mech Knights, I used to play this and Dimensional Barrier, the one that locks out different attributes. I think it's on this list actually. But yeah, this card, Dimensional Barrier, I think that's the name. I used to play this in Dimensional Barrier, and I'd go first to game 2, because obviously game 2 they make me go first. I set this and set Dimensional Barrier if I needed it, activate it, and then I just get to play next turn, which is really nice. Twin Twisters, yeah, it's okay. I'm actually going to put it low B tier. It's not as good as Cyclone again. There's too many cards that float and stuff that really holds it back. Super Poly is unfortunately S tier if you're playing Branded for the most part. Even if you're not playing Branded, it's a good card, but I'd say if you're playing Branded, it's S tier. Actually, no, you know what? I'm going to move it down. I'm going to move it to B tier. For Branded players, it's a S tier where it should be in your main or side, but for everyone else, it's not amazing. But because there's so many Branded players, you do need to have some sort of way to deal with Super Poly. It's just a bit irritating at the moment. Eradicator is not great at the moment, just because we haven't got a dark deck really that can consistently abuse this, but it is still a good card. Solemn Strike is always going to be kind of similar. It's a good card. Nothing really to say about it. Droll is a good card this format, but do you know what's unfortunate? One of the decks that should be affected by it, again, Branded, is not affected by it because they just do all this stuff in their draw phase. Flunder is affected by Droll, so that's good. Sword Soul, it's like it depends on their hand, but they usually can play through Droll, so that's the problem with it. So that's why I'm actually going to put Droll as high C tier. It's not bad, but it's not amazing. Evenly, in my opinion, is the best side deck card of this format. I think it was the best of last format as well. There's just not enough hard negation at the moment. We might start to get more Sword Soul back in the format, but there's not enough Omni negates essentially, and so that makes Evenly very, very valuable. Talents is okay. I don't actually like Talents anymore, because people are moving away from hand traps and moving into board breakers. But yeah, I'll say Talents is going to be high B tier. Droplets is another one that's okay, but it really depends on what you're against. The thing is, a lot of decks right now don't have to commit resources to the board until like the last second almost, and because of that, it makes cards like Droplets less valuable. You can't just kind of blanket negate stuff at the start. You can't basically use it like a Dark Reader no more. It's a bit better than Dark Reader no more though, because obviously you can wait until they do something, but that cost is always going to be a big problem for droplets. So yeah, low A tier, but not terrible. Duster's okay. It's better than Twin because it does more. It's worse than Twin because it's not quick play, but then it's worse than Cyclone because it doesn't banish. So I don't know. I'll put it slightly above Twin, but I don't think it's amazing. Silent Graveyard, unfortunately, it's not being played. It's just not that good. Even there's a lot of graveyard effects. Discarding a card to stop graveyard effects is quite costly. Imperial Order's banned, so I don't know why it's here. Lava Golem. Lava Golem's okay. However, more and more branded players are just ending on one monster. That's their end board now. They're doing it on purpose to play around all of these different cards, and so that's what's making Lava Golem and associated cards worse. Gamma's always going to be amazing, pretty much every format. It's worse this format than it was last format, and it's still one of the best side deck cards, so yeah, Gamma. Mirror Force, don't play, it's bad. Skullmeister, unfortunately, it has the disadvantage of not a lot of things necessarily activate in the grave. Some things do, but a lot of times this card's just moving in and out of the grave, which makes Bell strictly better. Yeah, in some matchups it'll be good, but by and large it's not needed. Judgment is going to be a top of BT in terms of if you're a deck that needs a card like Judgment, like a back row deck, you have to play it. However, not every deck has to play it, so that's why I'm going to move it down. Sphere mode, unfortunately, isn't good. However, it is likely if Pendulums comes back that this card will become good again, so we'll see what happens. Goes a match, same as Rivalry and Skill Drain and stuff. Yeah, if you can play it, play it. It's good this format. Forbidden Chalice is worse. You just don't want to trade 1-for-1 this format. The top decks are plussing so much off one card, and so you need cards that trade more than 1-for-1. You can't afford to trade 1-for-1. And unfortunately, guys, I have some bad news for you. We're moving away from a wide format. The format is going to sharpen up because, again, like I said, when you have decks, the gap between a meta deck and a rogue deck tends to be how consistent they can do something and how resilient they are, and then it's also how much advantage they can gain off cards. Rogue decks usually don't gain as much advantage, or they can't do it consistently. The top decks can very consistently gain 2, 3, 4 cards off one card. So it's like branded, you've got your branded fusions and your lubers and your branded in red. Sword Soul, you've got your, if they have their kind of normal summon Mogi effect and that goes through, they're going to get like 2 or 3 or 4 cards off that. Flounder, they do 1 normal summon, full combo off that. Having these, even Brave Engine activate their right not full combo, it's like full Brave board. So because of that, it makes it harder and harder to play rogue decks. So cards like this that trade 1-for-1 become a lot less valuable. And so yeah, it's gonna make it a less rogue format in my opinion, but we'll see what happens. Drowning Mirror Force, don't play that. D-Barrier is definitely an S tier. In fact, I'm gonna put it just below evenly matched, because yeah, if you can play this, play it. It's really good. Red Reboot, better than Pankratops, but still not amazing because it's at 1. You just can't rely on it, but it is good if you can play it. Shifter actually is the top of B tier. Sorry, Shifter is top of B tier. I love this card. If you can play Shifter, it's so busted. I mean, Flounder shows this card is amazing offensively, it's amazing defensively, everything about it is great. Unfortunately, most decks can't play it. Nibiru is going to actually be bottom of A tier. It's just gone down because Branded don't really care about it, Flounder don't really care about it, Sword Soul kind of care about it, but it's not amazing. Brave don't really care about it, a lot of decks don't care. However, still like before, Nib plus something else is always going to be amazing as a side deck option. But yeah, Bell is better than Meister, but still not amazing. Actually, no, sorry, what am I talking about? Bell's insane. Bell's insane this format. Sorry, yeah, I don't know what I was on about. Mystic Mine is pretty good, but I actually like Mystic Mine in the main deck at the moment. I think because decks like Branded haven't got a lot of room to do with cards like Mystic Mine, it does help it a lot. And then Zombie Odds. Zombie Odds going to be like bottom of A tier. It's becoming a nice option against a lot of different decks. But yeah, guys, so that is the side deck tier list. This is definitely what I would say you guys should focus on. So you definitely have these cards at the top as what you should really look at if you need a side deck card. But yeah, guys, I'll talk to you all soon. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Later on. Peace.